I grew up with that sit and feel, maybe not sit and feel, but maybe just sit is a failure. You're not doing anything if you're just sitting. Take action and get going. And that's where we're going to get the greatest growth. But actually you can get just as much growth from sitting and
Absolutely.
just swallowing in what's around and just be present.
Yeah.
And be present with hand on the heart and breathe and feel, because that's where your greatest growth is going to be from, not from moving 100 miles an hour to get something done.
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest, and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
Hello. Hello, dear Deb.
Moira.
Hello, Deb. Hello, listeners. Here we are with another deliciously motivating mindset conversation. I love having these conversations. Hope you love them too.
Oh my God, I love these. These are a highlight for my day. Definitely.
And like you say, we like to have conversations to, fix everything.
Uplift our world and those around us.
Absolutely. So we've got an excellent topic to talk about today that we hope motivates you and inspires you. But before we get into our conversation, we like to just do a wee check-in to rate ourselves. And we're going to rate ourselves, and I encourage our listeners to rate themselves too before we get into our topic. And so this rating is on a scale of 0 to 10. So 0 is completely at peace, zenned out, feeling great. And 10 and singing like that in your head.
Yeah.
And
your head.
10 is feeling like, oh my God, I'm so stuck and anxious and depressed and hiding in the corner with Deborah's brown cardigan huddled up in the corner, sucking your thumb. So, dear Deb, on this scale of 0 to 10, where would you put yourself?
I'm going to say a 1. I'm going to say a 1 because I have a cheeky little thing inside me. So look out on this call. I'm going to say a 1 with an edge, a 1 plus. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and good for you. So actually, I always have these conversations in my head before I ask Deb, what are you at? Because I'm thinking, oh, she's going to say this or I'm going to say that. And because we always do this comparing, I'm going to say 0.5. I almost said 0, but the topic we're going to talk about today is all about change. I love change and I thrive on change, but we're going to go into some places about this. So the topic we want to talk about today is...
Not that they haven't seen it on the...
No, you've seen the title already. We want to talk about, is self-discipline necessary for change? Is it a must for change? And we want to sort of break this apart because as coaches and mentors, we see a lot of different mindsets in this area about change. There's people run away from change. There's people that wish things would just stay the same and never have to do anything different. Yeah.
So when we started talking about this topic, and one of the things, just to break any illusion that people think we sit here, we go, what's the topic? What are you going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? Here's your bullet points. This is what I want to get across. This is what I want to get across. That's not us.
That's totally not us. It's never going to happen.
So we're now just over 3 minutes in this call, and it was 4 minutes ago that Moira said, this is the topic we're talking about, just so people know. In fact, it probably wasn't even 4 minutes ago. And Moira said, I said, what are we talking about? And she went, this. And I went, okay, right, bring it.
Let's roll with it.
Let's go. So if people think that we have this whole, what are we saying? What are we saying? What are we saying? You say this, that's a crock of BS.
I absolutely could not do it. We wouldn't be this far into doing these episodes if that's how it was going to be.
If I had bullet points on what I needed to say, I just couldn't do it. That's not me. So I am going to put a different spin on this today. Is self-discipline a must for change? Because my thing is, I know where I am and what is self-discipline and what is a must for change. What is a must and what is a change? So if we broke those words down to 3 core things, self-discipline, a must is an urgency, and change is, not sitting in your brown cardigan.
Change is given.
Yeah, change is given. So I'm going to say, for me, is self-discipline a must for change? No, it's not. There is nothing wrong with you sitting in your rocking in the corner, sucking your thumb. There is nothing wrong with you sitting in the space you are in right now.
Absolutely.
There is nothing wrong with you putting your hand on your heart, breathing, feeling this space right now. There's nothing wrong with you for taking a moment to reflect or not reflect or to shut your world down. There's nothing wrong with that. So your self-discipline can just be breathing.
Absolutely.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, I'm sure when Deborah said, no, you can't. You would have gone, gosh. But the way I've just spun that for listeners is actually it's okay to sit. I'm going to say in your shit. It's okay to sit where you are if you want to do that.
It's important to do that because we do need to accept and acknowledge where we are. Because but here's my finger goes up in the air, but so the thing is that we cannot change anything until we sit in what is,
and feel and breathe and
acknowledge and be okay with it, right?
Absolutely. And that's really important, to sit and take a moment. And you can just sit and not reflect on your past, your future, or whatever's happened. You can just sit. Just sit and look at the view outside, look at the birds, look at the no birds, look at the rain, look at the moon, the stars, the sunshine, the gloom, whatever. Just sit. And it's totally okay to do that.
So like you though, I would like to offer a little bit of a different spin on what I talk about when I say discipline. Okay. I'm a very self-disciplined person. I have a very high level of discipline that sometimes in my past has shown up as punishment, in that I really needed more sleep, but this very disciplined driver taskmaster in me says, no, you're getting up at 5 because you got to do this, and she doesn't run the show anymore. I'm happy to say.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
But if you look at the roots of the word discipline, and it's probably like the Latin root of it, it's disciple. And so, what do you think it would...
look blankly.
What's that?
I look blankly, yeah.
You look blankly. But you see, so therefore, to me, that could bring into this idea of self-discipline as being a sacred act of following your own inner calling, what it is that's the right thing for you. So to your point, Deb, anything that you need to do right now from a space of self-discipline could be, I need to sit with my feet in the water and just breathe, or go for a walk, or, it doesn't, too many times people think self-discipline means I'm going to run a marathon and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, right? It doesn't mean that,
Well, I think I go back to my childhood, going back, and I believe it was about you've got to keep moving. And I'm a mover and a shaker. When I see something, I move, and I move with such speed sometimes on things that people around get scared. They're like, whoa, shoot, I didn't know I didn't know that's what you meant when you said, let's go do this. Like, whoa, don't question it. This is me. Boom. But it's also okay just to sit and feel. And that's really, really important for everyone, just to breathe, just like you say. But it's not, I grew up with that sit and feel, maybe not sit and feel, but maybe just sit is a failure. You're not doing anything if you're just sitting. Like, get moving,
Right.
get moving,
Yeah.
and take action and get going. And that's where we're going to get the greatest growth. But actually, you can get just as much growth from sitting and
Absolutely.
just swallowing in what's around, and whatever you want to label it, reflecting, analyzing, whatever you're going to label that, is just be present.
Yeah.
And be present with hand on the heart, and breathe and feel your heartbeat. Feel if it's fast or slow. Feel what's around you. Feel the wind in your face. Feel whatever it is. Feel if you're cold.
Accepting.
Feel your physical symptoms, whatever it is. Feel, because that's where your greatest growth is going to be from, not from moving 100 miles an hour to get something done.
Right.
Because you're going to miss the posts that are flying past you as you're racing.
But then you can potentially also miss the inner guidance or the wisdom that you already have inside of you. Because if you're going down the road at 100 miles an hour, you may not be paying attention to little synchronicities or the little nudges and taps that your intuition is saying, no, take that detour or do that. But this is my thing, and is it fascinating that this is how our conversation is going on in this, because I really personally, I feel like the idea of self-discipline is actually completely misunderstood, because all too often people equate that with this, what you're just saying, with doing. I was brought up that way too. Always had to be doing and productive, and don't sit on your butt, and unless it was snowing outside.
And look, I totally agree, because self-discipline is it's that thought process of punishment of, I've got to get this done.
Exactly.
I've got to get this done. Yeah. And self-discipline is actually just swallowing in the present. Your self-discipline is that.
Yes, and that's why I wanted to share that idea of being a disciple of your own needs, of your own life experience. What fills your cup up?
Yeah,
it is going for a walk, or just looking at something beautiful.
And it's what we potentially forget and it is that be present with what you have right now. And for somebody who is a mover and a shaker, when I'm on, that's it. And then I go, hang on, stop.
Yeah.
And so for the last couple of weeks, I've actually stopped and had a good look around and gone, what's working, what's not? What's working here, what's not? In all areas of my life, the finances, the business structure, my clients, marketing, my health, all those things is stop. What's working, what's not? What's working, what's not? And it's about that. And that is a greater level of self-discipline.
Absolutely is. It's a perfect thing to do.
Yeah. Instead of going, everything's fine. Yep. Oh, take that, grab that. I'll grab that. It's actually stopping. And that's your self-discipline to look at.
Well, so part of my self-discipline now, because I was always that busy, very rigid, and it does come from the upbringing of like always got to be doing, forgetting that we're actually human beings.
Yeah.
But do you know, part of my self-discipline is to regularly have many breathing breaks throughout my day. That's it. Sometimes if I remember to do it, I set an alarm to just do a breathing check-in, and I'm just going to do a couple of breaths. That is self-discipline, but it also helps me do what you were just saying. is, how's my body feel? Am I getting into, you know how sometimes we can get so busy or so caught up down rabbit holes of like taking ownership for something that's actually not ours to do?
I laugh. I go, yep, we've all done that. Yes. Taking on someone else's story and attaching it to your own.
Yeah.
And building it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But when we really, because here's the other part. So we're talking about, is self-discipline required for change? We have to get clear on what are we defining as change, right?
Yeah.
And we have to tell ourselves the truth. And what I mean by that is, are you buying into making a change to keep somebody happy, or to please somebody else, or to achieve some kind of recognition, to be accepted by some group or person? Because that's not going to really set that great.
No, and that's exactly it. And it's like you're attaching to somebody else's story of what they want and they expect from you, or is that your story that you're coming from and you're building and creating yourself? Right.
But at any point, even if you are, doing something based upon the story you're telling yourself, you still have to stop and say, am I telling myself the truth? Is this serving that best version of me, that potential that is there for me already? Is this what I really, truly say yes to?
Yeah.
These are important questions, and there is no right or wrong answer, because sometimes we may choose, no, I want to, come off the freeway for a wee bit and get lost in the weeds. That's okay. If that's our choice, that's totally okay.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is, like, there is no right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to take a day to get off the freeway, so be it. If you want to take a week, so be it.
It's okay. Mm-hmm.
Just let those other people know that you're taking a day out or a week out, to get them aware of their expectations. But you just take what you feel is right for your soul. I was just going to say morally right, but actually it's not morally right. It's what you feel is right at this time, because, when I think about morally right, 2 days ago there was, you can think what you would do, but today you've had a better sleep, you've eaten, you've gone outside and you've appreciated life and you're in a different headspace and things are working around you, whereas 2 days ago they weren't. So you're morally right, or whatever of your shame and guilt that's going on is different today than it was 2 days ago.
Right.
So it also depends on your surroundings and energy. So it's not morally right, it's what's right for you right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to just be okay with that, with being lovingly accepting of this is what it is. The other part about that, checking in about what's right, is I think a wee guidance piece about saying what's right is there's less words. If you have to start justifying and saying, well, this is right for me because blah, 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 blah. I read about it. I saw this other person. And we start.
I saw this other person.
Explaining. Yeah. Explaining. Then we've lost what is right for us. If we can allow ourselves to step into what's right, it will always be less words. We don't have to convince anybody about what's right for us. When we really know this is the right thing for me, you don't owe explanations to other people. And then you check in. Does this feel like the best aligned choice, path, decision, right?
A quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciouslymotivatedmindset.com/gift.
I go back to shame and guilt, and it's what creeps up and smacks us on our butt. You know, shame and guilt for what's happened in the past. Last time I chose this decision, so I can't choose it again. Yes, you can. If you feel okay with that decision, you totally can. But don't hold on to what happened in the past.
That's right. The past is over with. Doesn't it? We do ourselves a disservice if we get stuck in a past version like that.
Yeah.
Because our own self is here, right? That
present.
But you see, and I'm glad you brought up the thing about shame and guilt, because the shame and guilt are actually very much lower on the levels of consciousness or the emotional scale. And so maybe then you can kind of step into a little bit of gentle, loving self-discipline, saying things like, how can I be more loving to myself in this moment? How can I be kinder about this whole situation? How can I accept that I've always done the best I can with what I knew at that point?
Yeah, I've said that a lot lately to people, is be gentle on yourself and be gentle on others.
Absolutely.
You don't know what other people are dealing with. And so just even being gentle on yourself, meaning give yourself a freaking break.
Absolutely.
Whether you know, if you've eaten junk, just choose the next day not to, or just cut back on certain things. If you've drunk too much alcohol, then just go, okay, well, tonight I'm actually just going to have sparkling water in my wine glass instead of wine in my glass, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, be gentle on yourself and be gentle on others. You know, you hear people, recently I went to the airport and checked in, and I was in a a-hole mood, and
Not
I went,
you. No.
I know everybody finds it hard to believe. And I went to the check-in counter, and the lady had an attitude. And, you know, attitude versus attitude doesn't really work.
No.
And it definitely doesn't work if I'm one who had an attitude. So my attitude got bigger with hers, and she tried to make hers bigger, but I clearly had the bigger attitude. And I won. I won that round, and the next 3 rounds I had with her.
Oh dear.
And I went away, and I went upstairs and went to the toilet, and then I thought, God, you were a bit horrible to her. And then thought, what do I need to do to fix that? And then went, nothing. Just let it be. Just nothing. You know, and attitude. And anyway, when I went down to check in, and they do the final where you swipe your boarding pass and then you go out to the plane, she said, oh, would you mind can I have a chat to you, please? And at that moment, my heart went through my bottom parts, and I went, oh my God, she's not going to let me on the plane. Oh my God, she's told me something's happened to my dog, because I got my dog on the plane.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she said, can you just wait for everyone to go through? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, okay, Deborah, you just need to calm your farm. So I stood and I waited, and that probably 35-second or minute, I started feeling sick, and I went, oh, Deborah, you shouldn't have been so mean to her. She's not going to let you on that flight. You know, I started
making up a story, of course.
Yeah. Creating the story. They got bigger and bigger and bigger. And she said, I just want to apologize to you. And I looked at her, and I got a bit of a fright. And she said, I had people all morning bang, bang, bang at me. And it was only when you left I realized I didn't handle you like I could have, and I could have done it better. And I want to thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Wow. That's awesome.
I nearly cried.
So the two of you are reflecting one another beautifully. I love that.
It was, and for somebody to apologize and just acknowledge, it wasn't about the apology, it was actually acknowledged. It wasn't about the apology, it was actually acknowledged to me that she was an ass. And then I said to her, I could have handled it differently. I know I could have, but we both had a good laugh about it. And I said, you know what? I was running late. I was frustrated. I also know I had too much luggage, and every time I go to check in, I know there's a little bit of edge of me, and I'm always like, oh, can I break the rules? I know that when I approached you. And so I also gave her some love and feedback back to her. And it was a beautiful thing. And I just got on the plane, and I felt very differently. And so my whole day then became, I went from an 8 attitude to a 0.
That's beautiful.
And it was just quick how it could change from something somebody said to me. And it was battle of the wits.
Right.
I did go there on edge. I did go with that anxiousness of, oh, can I break the rules again? Because I do break a few rules. But for her to actually say to me, and she did put me in that position that I was like, oh, whoops, I've just been humbled. If she doesn't let me on the plane, or she tells me I had to take something.
She slapped my wrist.
Yeah, but it was that taking that moment, a moment away, and just reflecting and going, yes, Debz, you could have handled this differently. You could have said that. What's she going to say to you? If you come from a present space and from your heart, instead of that, egocentric, I know more than you attitude,
right?
And it was part of at that moment, it was part of a self-discipline for me to take ownership of my attitude and our communication.
Yeah,
and it was beautiful that she said that, because I wouldn't have said anything.
Right, because you had no more context. But
no.
You know what? I have a similar story. Not similar, but I have a story that landed for me.
Get your dog in and have attitude.
No, because I love that you brought that up, because this is an area of self-discipline, and the example has happened a long time ago. But I had my car towed because I had parked it illegally. and I it was really funny, because I thought, well, I'm just gonna be in there for 10 minutes. It's gonna be just in and out. And so then when I came out, my car's gone, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm sure I parked it here. And I was like being really innocent. I had no idea that's what happened in the city. And so somebody walking by said to me, are you looking for your car? Is it a white car? Yeah. And she pointed at the sign that said, illegal parking is going to be towed. And she said, you have to phone that number. So the thing about this too was that I had run in to grab something in a store, and I was on my way to an appointment. And so then I had to phone this, where they take cars and what they are towed, and I had to go get a taxi, go to this place and line up. And the lineup was huge.
Oh, really?
Huge lineup of very cranky people. Very cranky people coming in because you had to pay a fine. Yeah. And so I swear there must have been about 10 people in front of me, and in my head I was so angry at myself. So, and oh my God, I'm going to be late for this client, and this is going to happen. But then when it's my turn, I was very kind to her, because I could tell this woman had been yelled at and accused and bitched at, and it was all her fault. It's her fault. It's not her fault that I parked illegally.
Yeah.
So I treated her with kindness, with respect. She got the money, and she looked at me and she said, I can't believe how gracious you're being. And I said, well, why shouldn't I be? You didn't do anything to me. And it brought a tear to her eye. And do you know what she did? She gestured for some, I guess it was one of I know he worked there. I got escorted out past the lineup of people that were waiting to be shown where their cars were, because they were like, no, this woman has just treated us with respect, so therefore they treated me with respect. And I was out there, and do you know what? I got to my appointment smack on time.
Oh,
isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
But you see, here's
that. And that I've got all my erect goosies, everything else sticking, my hairs and my arms sticking up.
Yeah, it's that making sure that, and I know how easy it is to make it somebody else's fault because you're in a sticky situation, but it's not.
Well, you parked illegally. End of story.
That's right.
Whether you saw the sign or not, you parked illegally.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I think, and that is part, I've still got my hair sticking up. That is part of the self-discipline is it, and I'm sure we say this every call, it's acknowledging and then taking action and actually going, you know, I'm in this situation because I put myself here.
I did it. Absolutely.
And and I know I was on edge before I went to the check-in.
Right.
I know I was on edge, you know, and I even said, oh, there's no priority here because I'm a part of the priority flying. So I already came in and
With the
swung
attitude.
I already came in and just went, oh, roll out the red carpet. And I didn't get that. So because I didn't get that, I then went conflict.
Right.
But to have that woman changed my day.
I bet. That's awesome.
Changed my day. And just like you changed that woman's day by being accountable.
Yep.
I wasn't accountable until she spoke up.
Right.
You know, she just had attitude. I had attitude. She had attitude. I actually started with attitude. But it was, you know, and I don't get, and the interesting thing is I don't get, what are they called? Surveys? You know how like you do a survey, like you fly and then they send you a survey sometimes.
Yeah.
I haven't had one of those in 2 years.
Right.
And I got my first one from that flight I just did. And so I was like, I'm going to compliment this woman.
Good for you. Good for you.
And you know, and it just gave that little extra, because I don't get the surveys. People get surveys all the time. Like, I don't get one. I had a good flight or I had a bad flight or whatever, you know. So I complimented her. I said the lady at check-in was amazing and she was very gracious and she, you know, she named my dog by name because she did all those things in between her a-holeness that I labeled a-holeness, you know, she did all that stuff and it was beautiful to actually give that feedback of that little bit extra.
Yeah, that's nice. Good.
But I didn't choose to do it first. She chose to do it first.
Right.
And because she chose to do it first, then I shifted my attitude. Mm-hmm. You chose to do it first and you got rewarded. Mm-hmm. And it just, you know, and that is part of is self-discipline a must for change? Yes. And what can we do that labels that self-discipline for change?
Right. But then, and that's what the theme of our conversation here is to be careful not to have negative connotations about what self-discipline really is.
Yeah.
Because it is saying, like, really, when we have self-discipline, we are communicating to the core of ourselves that we are worthy, that we matter, that we are you know, that we're worthy of that extra piece, right? That mindfulness, that you know, eating healthy, drinking your water, taking your breathing, being kind to yourself and to others.
Yeah, and that self-discipline in quotations is can be a heavy word because at the start, you know, when we talked about it, self-discipline to me was punishment.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if it's the word discipline. Yeah, maybe that's what, but it's, you know, I need to punish myself. I need to work 20 hours in this 24-hour day to get this done because I said I was going to get this done.
Right.
You know, but knowing that the last 12 hours of that 20 hours you're working is actually crap work.
Yeah. And so that's actually a really good piece of reflection too, because there is times where I would have that aspect, you know, it's like, no, I have to keep working. I said I was going to get these articles done or I was going to get this done, and I'd keep going, but I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And so I, you know, the taskmaster that used to run me would keep pushing. But then I proved it to myself a number of times that the times where I was really exhausted and I couldn't do it, I would just walk away. Sometimes I'd go for a nap. Sometimes I'd just go for a walk. Sometimes I would just go and do something different. And then the amount of times that I did that and proved it to myself over and over and over again, I got the same amount, if not more, accomplished because I did a reset on my energy, right? And
it would be more because you've self-disciplined then for change. You've changed your energy. You've changed your state. You've changed your environment. You've gone for whatever it is to give you that sparkle, that glitter, that joy, that life again.
Yeah.
You know,
the boost.
And it is. It is like doing that boost, that shot. And that's exactly it. And it's so is self-discipline a must for change? Yes, but it's what you want to label self-discipline is and what the change is you want to label.
Right. And because that's the thing too, is that maybe, and this is something for our listeners to just check in with themselves. If self-discipline feels like that harsh taskmaster that's saying, you have to be busy, you have to be productive, you have to get it done. If that's what's happening, maybe it's time to sit down and ask yourself, what is it that I'm changing? And is it for me? Is it what I want? As opposed to, am I doing it to placate somebody else? Or because then it will feel like punishment driven self-discipline if I'm doing it for something else other than what I truly, truly want from my heart. Right?
And it can, absolutely, and it's those outside influences. And I'm going to say, you're not letting them down. You know, I think that's that shame and guilt. You're not letting them down for telling them, I can't do this by this certain amount of time, or I can't do this, or I can only do this. You're actually just reflecting, and you're just going, right now, I have to stay present with me, and you're not going to get 100% out of me. So, you know, you're going to get 50% if I keep doing this. So it's actually, you're not going to upset others because they have to be aware of their own stuff. And if they've given you a deadline that's unrealistic and you've both agreed to that, then actually there's both accountability on that. Yeah. So speak up to protect your heart, really, to protect who you are.
Yeah, because if you say yes to something that is unrealistic, then you're not being genuine to yourself. Right? And then you're going to let them and you down when you don't make the deadline.
And 99.9% of the time, you're not going to make that deadline because you were already peeved off right from the start at check-in at the airport. You're already peeved off right from the start to, have to do it their way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's giving power and storytelling somewhere else. It's not actually allowing you to tell the truth about yourself.
Be present.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that when you're present with yourself, you can focus, you're more energized, you're more alive, you've got your own spark within you. Mm-hmm. And that's the wisest part about being present, is finding your spark within you to allow you to function.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. So is self-discipline a must for change?
I say it is.
Heck yes.
Heck yes.
Heck yes. Oh, wow. So I guess we're going to wrap this conversation up.
We are. It's been a good conversation. I like where we went to with this idea of self-discipline.
Beautiful flowing conversation, I think. So I'd love some feedback from people. What did they like about it? What didn't they like about it? What were their realizations? Where is their self-discipline? Did they feel it was punishment? Did they feel it was...
Yeah, what's your belief about self-discipline?
Are you completely disagreeing with what we agree on? Let us know. And let us know the numbers. So Moira, where would you were? What were you? You were a 0.5.
Yeah, and so I'm now a 0.
I know. Yeah, I'm a 0. There's no cutting it. We're both a 0. We knew that.
We knew that.
It was in my cheekiness at the start. Like I said, I'm going to be a little bit. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I love that, and I love the stories that we've entangled in this.
Yeah,
one.
Me too. That I loved your airport one. That was a great story.
I was twitching. I was like, oh my God, she's not going to let me on that flight. It's the last flight of the day. My dog's on, but I'm not going to be on there. Yeah, it was a bit of a panic, which gave me some real self-discipline, internal hand on my heart, breathing.
Of course.
Yeah. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Next time. Yes. Thank you, Debz. Thank you, dear listeners.
Thanks,
and we would love to hear from you. Any comments on our Facebook or direct message us too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.